I want to welcome everybody to Elizabethtown City Council special meeting for April 8th, 2019. And I'd like to ask Councilwoman Cindy Walker to lead us in invocation, please.
Shall we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. And as always, we thank you for our blessings. We thank you for this wonderful city in which we live and work in. We thank you for our many employees who work very hard, along with our first responders, to keep us safe. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for our armed forces and for their families and for the sacrifices that they give in order for us to live in a country of freedom and democracy. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this council and for our mayor. We likewise ask that you lead, guide, and direct us, and we hope that the decisions that we make are not only pleasing to our community, but also to you. We ask for your continued blessings. These things we ask in your name.
Amen. Amen. And we're blessed to have in the first grade class from Hartland Elementary here to lead us in the pledge. So if y'all don't mind, walk up here to the front. All right, guys, we ready? Can you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, can you all bunch up here real quick so we can get the picture? Does that work? Yeah. You got to get tighter. They'd have to stand all the way in the parking lot. Here, make a couple rows for me if you don't mind.
So you get in the front.
Some of y'all can kneel down.
Scoot down.
Closer, guys. Can you get it?
Y'all gonna make Tony's part of your class, or I'm still there.
We good? Thank you. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. Okay. We are going to have the first reading on an ordinance that pertains to a zoning issue, and due to a business conflict, Councilman Fulkerson is going to recuse himself from this vote, so he's going to step out for just a second and we'll proceed. So ordinance number 09-2019, amending zoning maps for 750 South Provident Way. I need a motion and a second to read.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Whereas the Elizabethtown Planning Commission held a public hearing on March 26, 2019, initiated by Goss Hall Systems, LLC, for property located at 750 South Provident Way, Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And whereas the Elizabethtown Planning Commission, based on the testimony at the public hearing, determined that the request to amend the official zoning map for property located at 750 South Provident Way to a proposed zoning district classification of regional commercial, C3, would be appropriate for the property, as the Planning Commission found the request to be in agreement with the city's comprehensive plan. In conformance with Harris 100, the Planning Commission has transmitted to the City Council findings of fact and a recommendation for approval of said request to amend the official zoning map, including a summary of evidence and testimony from said hearing. Now be it ordained by the City of Elizabethtown, Kentucky, that from and after the passage, approval, and publication of this ordinance, that the official zoning map is amended for property located at 750 South Provident Way from suburban residential general, which is R2, to regional commercial, C3. This action is taken pursuant to a request by Goss Hall Systems, LLC, for the property located at 750 South Provident Way, and pursuant to the recommendation of the Elizabethtown Planning Commission. The City Council also finds that the request is in agreement with the city's comprehensive plan and that the proposed zoning classification is appropriate. The findings of fact of the Planning Commission in support of this zoning map amendment are adopted as if set out verbatim. The legal description of said property is more particularly described in the attached Exhibit A. Be it further ordained that the mayor of the city and/or his designate be and he is hereby authorized and directed to take all steps necessary to perfect this ordinance. Read the first time, this is the 8th of April, 2019.
Thank you.
Sir.
So, Councilman Fulkerson needs louder and faster. I guess we should be on too. Next up is the second reading of an ordinance, that'd be number 5, 2019 memorandum of agreement with the Hardin County Sheriff's Office for collection of city property taxes. I need a motion and a second to read.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Whereas the city strives to provide the best service to its citizens, including the collection of its ad valorem taxes, and whereas the city believes that community partnerships can provide a benefit to its citizens, and whereas KRS 91A.070 authorizes a county sheriff's office to collect municipal ad valorem taxes, and whereas the city believes that the most efficient and economic process for the collection of its ad valorem property taxes is to partner with the Hardin County Sheriff's Office, now be it ordained by the city of Elizabethtown, Kentucky, that this memorandum of agreement with the Hardin County Sheriff's Office will be in full effect after the passage, approval, and publication of this ordinance. The memorandum of the agreement is attached as Exhibit A. Be it further ordained that the mayor of the city and/or his designate be and he is hereby authorized and directed to take all steps necessary to perfect this ordinance. This was read the first time on the 18th of March, 2019.
We have a discussion.
I don't think so.
Okay. I need a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved. Second.
All right, so, Councilman Bishop,
Yes.
Councilman Deneen,
Yes.
Councilman Fulkerson,
Yes.
Councilman Shipp,
No.
Councilwoman Walker,
No.
and Willoughby is absent. Okay. So now that will end our special meeting agenda. I need a motion and a second to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Which brings us to Littlestown City Council work session agenda for April 8th, 2019. We'll call that to order. And first up will be Scott Reynolds and Mark Malone to talk about the fire station. Number 2.
I'm gonna present the plans up there, so if you all, I don't know if you can. I'm gonna put Mark at the podium, I'm gonna go there and work the laptop. But I'll talk, I'll do all the talking.
I'll just stand.
Most of the talk.
I'm sitting next to Steph.
Eric, you said didn't say. All the council's all spread out. We've been working with our architects, RBS Design Group, to finish the new fire station that will be located next to the parking ride. So I've kind of got a site plan up here. The parking ride property is located right here. It's really hard to see, but the signal at 210 and 31W is right here at our new entrance to the fire station. This is a preliminary site plan, just kind of showing how the building's going to lay on the site. One entrance in, wrap around the station, pull the trucks into the station here, come back out. Working with the state to get a preemptive system on this signal so that when the fire station gets a run, the signal turns green for them only. Everybody else will get a red light. They can go whichever way they need to go from there. So just a preliminary site plan. We're still trying to finalize the details. One of the things that will happen is we'll get into some of the park and ride property, the asphalt itself. So as a separate project, Don and I are working on relaying out that parking ride, installing sidewalks up and down this portion of the corridor on our side of the street. The state has some other things that we're gonna have to do to clean up the site and get it ready. All the drainage will head back here to the existing drainage pond in the back that Mark calls the koi pond. I don't know if I actually put koi in it, but existing drainage back here in this area. We've got some preliminary geotech that says the site's good for our structure. Working on getting the finalized geotech report, making sure the footers are the right size. So that's just the site plan, kind of where we're going to be. Hope you all can see this, but I'll try to. Getting into the floor plan itself, we have 5 bays for all the fire apparatus in that station. Mechanical storage rooms here. This is where the gear storage will be, and washing the gear and everything that they need to be able to store their gear, clean it, dry it, get it ready for the next run. Entrance into the station is here with the radio room, big conference room, office for their training, for visitors, everything else that they need for the administration portion of the fire station. Then we get into the living quarters portion of the station. Day room here, kitchen, dining room. One thing they've asked on this station is to put an outdoor living space for the guys. That was built into the plans as a porch here, kind of just to get them outside, get them to see some daylight instead of being stuck in the station all the time. Pantry area for the kitchen, refrigerators, everything that they need for that. Bathroom, showers in the core. And then their bunk rooms are back here. The new building code has kind of got us a little bit. The code now requires that a storm shelter be built inside the fire station, which seems kind of odd, but we have to build a separate structure inside this structure so that if anything, tornado hits, that this structure withstands, I think it's 210-mile-per-hour winds and some other things. So we have to build the bunk rooms as a separate structure, which is bringing our cost up a little bit. But
Is that on any commercial structure now?
no, that is a emergency service. Yes. So the new standard is fire stations, police stations. So yeah, we have to.
Did some government agency come up with that?
Probably.
Yeah. Another unfunded mandate.
So that's, like I said, that's driving our cost up because that's a separate structure that we have to build into the fire station itself. And then going upstairs, we'll have workout room, mechanical rooms, more storage for the guys. Mark, you want to add anything to the?
Just for those of you that have been to Station 3, it's going to be very similar to the footprint of Station 3. We just basically flipped the bathrooms to the center where they were on an outside wall before, and we had some freezing issues with some pipes and plumbing. So we tried to keep the plumbing center of the building. We did that outdoor living space. One of the things that Station 3 didn't have is like if they grill out, they had to actually walk through the entire building to the other side to get to the grill and then all the way back through the building. So basically that area out there is basically a covered porch where the grill and things like that can sit. So it'll be just off the kitchen instead of having to traipse through the whole fire station. Other than that, the floor plan is very similar to Station 3.
So that's why the need is, even though that kitchen is right there by a door, that's the need for the additional outdoor space?
Well, it's a covered patio is what it is. We could uncover the patio, but that was the only difference was that they put a roof on. I mean, it's not gonna be like a fireplace and a, you know, television, anything like that. It'll strictly be just a covered patio.
You know, we'll have to put one on this police station if we do that.
They don't cook here.
See, make a note, back her down. This got insulation in it, Scott?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. Moving on to the exterior of the building.
Hey, Scott, before you move on, these kids probably want to know, is going to be a fireman's pole in there from the second floor?
No,
What is that, Mark? They do away with that?
that basically, yes, it's been done away with due to KLC or just insurance in general regulations, workers' comp, OSHA. You can still put a pole in a fire station, but it costs a fortune to put enough safety stuff on it so you don't get hurt
Yeah.
sliding down the fire.
You take all the fun out of sliding.
So this will be the elevation of the building facing Dixie. Here's the entrance door, a little covered patio on the end. This station is a little bit different design for some of the stuff we've heard from the firefighters themselves, is putting bifold doors in instead of overhead doors. We feel that's a safety issue, help us not hit trucks in the overhead doors, not tear it up as easy.
Way less maintenance cost on those. There's basically a motor and a belt where you don't have to deal with the springs and the chain drives and all of that stuff. It cleans that side of it up. It's a little more expensive on the front end, but I think over the life of the station, it's going to save us money on overhead doors. But we did compromise on the back of the building. We put the regular overhead doors because when you're coming in, you see the door going up, but when you get dispatched on a run, there's a point where you lose the door over the windshield. And if you're not careful, you can pull out and actually catch the top of that door. The bifolds, you see the door the whole time.
This is the elevation coming from, going southbound on Dixie. So this is the view we'll see from Sullivan's Car Lot. I would say hotel, but I can't remember which one we're at.
I think, yeah, used to be Holiday and South.
So that's the view that direction. It's the rear elevation of the building. And that's the elevation from the parking lot. We didn't put too many windows over there for people to see, so. Any questions? I know one big question, I'll go over there and answer that you all get back up here.
Scott, what do you think the timeline is to get that done, get started?
We are looking at, if we get approval, to bid it in June and 10 months to construct.
What's the total cost on all
Received cost estimate today, preliminary, we're looking at $2.4 to $2.6 million.
Did you say how many firefighters should come back?
8.
Up to eight.
Up to 8.
Yeah.
That way, you know, we're planning, you know, you don't plan the fire station for where you're at, you plan the fire station for where you'll be in 30 years. It's designed, all the stations have been designed for 2 companies to be at. So if the city continues to expand and continues to grow, then there may be a need for another company to be positioned out there, and we have the room for that.
And there's enough room for apparatus for 2 companies.
Correct.
Mark, if you don't care, explain to them the equipment situation and how you would do that up as far as putting equipment in what we have as a new building off of what we already have.
Well, we've purchased a couple of pumpers in the last few years, so we'll be at, now Station 2 will just be a replacement. This will be replacing the one on East Dixie. So the equipment that's currently there at East Dixie just moves to that station. When we go to Station 4, it will be time for another pumper to come into the fleet. So that's when that pumper will come in, and then we'll use, we haven't sold anything. We've been keeping our backup trucks. I think our oldest truck's a 1998 model. So we've been keeping that in the fleet so that when that fourth station comes open, we'll have equipment to spread out. So all 4 stations will have a truck and a backup.
And the fourth station, that's gonna be off Mulberry or out in that vicinity?
That's correct. That's correct. And that'll give us, we're pulling the coverage a little bit further south, and that is to cover the expansion that we've done out to Ivy Point and those areas that are a little bit outside of the ISO 2.5 mile circle, basically. Wherever Tony's at, loves the circles. So we're pulling coverage further south, and that will, the Station 4 will pick up that difference, and it also helps us with the, with the rail situation. Station 2 gets cut off if there's a train moving back towards the Main Street area. Station 4 will help cover all of that. Station 3 now, all the other stations are covering it, but it'll just make it that much better for everybody on that side of town.
And we'd had some conversations originally, we were looking at redoing this particular station about a bay for the EMS in the county. Did that fall apart?
Yeah, we've had some dialogue with them, and they not in the.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you all.
I have a question, Chief, you can answer. The safe area inside the firehouse, what about the volunteer fire departments? Are they gonna be required to build one of those safe areas?
I'm not sure. I don't know what the building code.
If they build a new building, they would, Terry.
They build a new building. The reason why I ask that is, Central Hardness has to maybe do an expansion to one on city property, so, are they gonna fall into new building code?
Yeah, the building code does not discriminate between full-time fire department, volunteer fire department, big city, little city. That's the building code in Kentucky. That is an international building code, so that's all across the U.S. too. And like Marty said, one of the issues that has come up, recently, and that's why the provision was put in the code, is just the number of disasters across our country. And the decision was made that, a lot of these buildings perform as shelters in their local communities and stuff. So that's why the standard was raised for our public, not just our public buildings in E-Town, but public buildings. So, but no, it does not discriminate whether you're volunteer or not. It's an expense that anybody who wants to build anything new moving forward under the code will have to comply with.
And make it tough on volunteer.
Yes, it will.
But that firehouse is not big enough. It's a shelter of any magnitude, right?
Well, no, honestly, the shelter's designed for the public protection people to survive so that they can get out and then help the community.
Not city councilman, though, right?
You can get there. We'll put you in there.
I'm going to your house. I'm going to your house, Mayor.
Okay, Michael Page is on the hot seat for a while here. Meadow Lane update, Deeks Drive update, and Fairwoods Road update. Don Hill.
Don's leaving, look.
Sliding out.
Back up.
Last week, we invited residents along Meadow Lane, full length of Meadow Lane from North Miles to Sycamore Street to discuss some public improvements that we had in mind. We did have some budget for some sidewalk interconnectivity, the school, church, shopping center, so it's good. candidate for a sidewalk project. And also the portion between Poplar Drive and Morningside, there's also some on-street parking needs. So we started the project, informing them of our proposals there, and then opened it up to feedback, not only on those, but anything else they had concerns about as far as public infrastructure. Everybody seemed to be for the sidewalk. There was a few there that was indifferent about the subject and went against it. We had about 15 attendants there for the pre-meeting. Some of the concerns they brought up were along that Poplar, in between Poplar and Morningside, where there's some drainage concerns to look at. There's a drainage way comes from Morningside Elementary down to the old Severns Valley property. There were some concerns there, some existing sinkholes. So it's kind of a complex drainage area that's going to take some more time to really study and look at. Try to come up with some solutions and a plan that we could look closer and possibly in next year's capital improvements. But in the meantime, I do think we could go ahead and begin installing sidewalks from Morningside to Sycamore Street. Get working on that.
On Meadow Lane, are you talking about sidewalks on both sides?
On the portion from,
I'm talking about from like Sycamore, down towards North Miles.
yeah, Sycamore to Morningside is where we're proposing just one side having sidewalks.
On which side?
On the north side, on the morning side,
On the morning side.
elementary side. You guys know.
What would you do to the street on the other side? Would you curb it?
The other side, we would, not much right of way to play with there. Our typical local street cross section is 50 feet right of way, 5-foot sidewalks on both sides, and you got a 3-foot utility strip and then 2-foot curb and gutter. They only have about 40 feet of right of way width to work with, unless we kind of proceed with acquiring additional right of way. But what we could do there is to also allow to get the on-street parking available to those residents. You need to have a minimum of 28 feet of asphalt pavement width. And then we would have the curb and gutter, and then right on the side of the curb and gutter would be a 5-foot sidewalk. And placing that would get you about the 42 foot width there. And that also gives on-street parking where they're not parking on the sidewalk, which they're currently doing right now.
Right.
The existing sidewalk's about 3 feet wide, more or less, and it's pretty bad shape.
Did y'all have the discussions about that? I mean, if we're gonna put new sidewalks, if those cars parking on that, we're gonna be right back where we were.
Yeah, they were all for that subdivision was designed 60 years ago, and most of the households probably only had one vehicle. Now there's about 3 or 4 per household, so they're kind of limited to where they can park.
But Marty, that's why Michael's explaining to you on what we presented to the neighbors was to increase the pavement width so that we would go to the city's 28-foot pavement width, which does allow parking on one side of the street. And as Michael pointed out, most of the residents that we talked to seem to be in favor of that kind of solution to the problem. I know that was the concern the council had, is that if we made improvements where we just fixing the sidewalk and they're going to still keep parking on it and destroy it. So that's why we looked at the wider cross section, and that seemed to be acceptable. Now we may do some things with some pavement widths because they also, as you all have heard from them in the past, voiced some concerns about just the volume of traffic or the speed and the cut through in that area. So we talked to them about trying to look at some potential traffic calming ideas, and we suggested some things that we could look at. And again, the folks that attended the meeting seemed to be pretty receptive to the city looking at different ideas.
So I'll give you all more updates on that as things progress. Those plans.
Are you trying to do this in the next budget cycle?
That's what it's gonna look like for just that portion from Morningside to North Miles. A little more in depth project.
But now, Terry, as Mike pointed out, the money that you all put in the budget this year, we think we can go ahead and look at the sidewalk and some improvements from Morningside to Sycamore. So we can do that section, and we talked to the residents about the phasing of that too. And again, they understood the need to budget and do it in phases, and I think they were receptive to that idea. So what we'll do is a follow-up. Once Michael has his plans finished, we'll probably have another meeting with the neighbors.
You know, Poplar it was a rough year for them.
Yeah.
You know, it really was. And these are the same neighbors that also use Poplar. I mean, I guess they could have gone to the Morningside, but they should know what they're in for, but they should also know that it should be worth it. You know, that street needs improvements. I think all the people on Poplar, most of them now would say, well, we're glad we went through it because it's all finished. It's clean and shiny to us.
And at the public meeting, I mean, Michael and Don were there and answered questions and did a good job of explaining things. But we did a little survey to get some input from them. But I think most of the residents were just pleased that the city took the time to meet them and talk to them before the project started and shared some ideas and stuff.
Yeah, I was surprised how many residents there that lived there for as long as they've had. There's quite a few historians, lived there for 50 years. They kind of let you know how that subdivision has evolved over the years. Any more questions on that? I'm gonna move on to Deeks Drive. Sure. That's okay. Deeks Drive storm and sewer repair project. A couple weeks ago, I had explained to you all that we're narrowing down on a design, and we achieved that. We've advertised the project last week. Design we decided to go with moving the sanitary sewer and the storm in the street. Of making a more buildable contract to the buildable project and contractors. Will allow a reduction in overall completion of the project. Last meeting I told you 2 weeks ago, I said it's going to be about 90-day project. We've actually advertised that now to a 75-day completion time. It's a little less least inconvenient to the business owners who they're right in their property, tearing up their parking lots. And we'll need some coordination with. We're not going to have any local through traffic through the project. We will be able to work with the business owners to allow some access. On either one side, depending on where they're at in the project. A couple of those businesses have 2 entrances, so that kind of works in our favor there. It's more accessible for future city maintenance. It'll be right there in the road and 10 feet off somebody's business building. So that bid, we're planning on getting the bids next Tuesday, the 16th. We'll look those over and then recommend one of those bids we received 22nd.
So you've already put it out for bid and you got the bids in, now you're just reviewing them, okay.
No, bids are due the 16th.
Oh, the bids are due the 16th, okay, I got you. My favorite subject.
Yes, peer workshop. We are substantially complete on the project. We're working on some punch list items now. Some handrail we still need to install. Restoration, get a good, healthy grass established in all the disturbed areas. There's some curb that needs to be restored that they constructed that just got damaged during the construction process. Some little things that they would finish up on. some of the temporary striping when they're moving from one side to the next, that's kind of still visible, travel away, so they need to treat that area. There were some change orders, last summer, there's a municipal order to approve a change order for the mayor to approve no more than 50,000. There's been up 4 of those change orders that extended the completion date to just 6 days. And that total was, as of right now, in those 4 change orders, $25,909. So we're still under that 50,000 mark. I don't expect to go over that. I don't see any other expenses per change order. There will be a final change order just to finalize the completion date. We're working that out with Palmer Engineers, the consultant engineer we hired for the project. Get all those documents together, and then we'll be able to present those to you pretty soon.
Just refresh me though.
Sure.
That job was supposed to be completed in August?
Yes,
Am I
August
correct?
1st.
August 1st, okay.
Looks like we got some runoff though over there on Dr. Godfrey's property. You go through there and look from the rain this weekend, that needs to be addressed because that's going to become a ditch right there in his yard.
There was a ditch that was designed to do that, so those are kind of difficult, particularly right after the tractor store when there's another rain occurs. So yeah, that's on the punch list. They're gonna have to put some effort into it.
Did the county do that paving on them?
They did.
That is the worst job. I'm glad it's not us. That is the
Open up
worst paving job I have ever seen
I
in my
would
life.
say that too,
Is that
especially
right?
in the turning lane. And you read all the time for motorcycles, there's signs up that says, you know, a shift in it. You can see the line right down the middle of those turning lanes,
Look.
that where the pavement is not, or not pavement, the blacktop.
They went there like they ran out, and they still had just a little bit of shovel,
Right.
and so they just pointed it that way. That,
I would agree.
I hope they're not done with that. I don't think that's a finished paving job, if I was going to assume. I can't speak for our county.
For what they did, I mean, obviously the striping and the markings were done, and then more pavement was done after that, and tore up all the markings and the striping. It just seems like.
Oh, it may have been something else I was going to bring up. The state was involved with this project, with putting in the loops for the signals, the sequencing. They've also not quite done, but they're putting in the pedestrian crossing signals as well. That contractor with a saw cutting for those loops, quite do a really good job of cleaning the work. I'll bring that up to the state. We'll talk with them about that. See what we can do. That's all I've got. Unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, council remarks. Anybody have any comments?
Today was, I'm all right. Today was Airborne Day. So, the traffic report said they were up about 100% over last month. And they had a lot of corporate traffic. Love Fuels is coming in a lot, a company called Thermaltronics. And Nucor has come in, Nucor for the steel plant over in Meade County. They came in unannounced, and 2 very large planes, and they had a bunch of limos that had them and wanted on the tarmac, so to speak. They weren't too happy that we had to wait until the planes got parked before we let them off. But then all of a sudden, the state police came, and they all had an escort to Brandenburg. Pretty big production, but they were on the governor's time, and they needed to make sure to be there. But it's pretty exciting. Husco International, Bailey Lumber, Summit Polymers, had some Chick-fil-A people come in from out of state, Alltech. We had more power line control, military operations, a lot. Kids, we had 2 dog rescues out at the airport last month. That's dogs that are sick and emergency transports, and they get them to a vet, get them taken care of. some ground-to-air ambulance transfers. Mayo Clinic had an emergency pickup at the airport. We had an organ recovery team come in and went to Harbor Memorial Hospital and harvested some organs from California. They came from California, harvested the organs at Harbor Memorial Hospital, and then left out the next morning and took them to Denver for a patient in Denver. So, just some things that, you know, an airport is a pretty important part of the community. Even though we don't go out and fly around in our airplanes, there's a lot of activity going on out there, pretty important stuff. So, in any event, the engineers and our consultants were there today. We had 5 major capital improvement projects going on right now. So it's a pretty busy time.
I've got out to the lake this weekend on Saturday, just to visit some of the trails that were out there. There's a lot of people out there. I went out there to originally meet up with the Central Hardin High School lacrosse team. They were doing volunteer trail cleanup at the lake. And while I was there meeting them, there was a group of soldiers that also came off the trail, about 15 bags of garbage, and it was from the Recruiting and Retention College at Fort Knox. So, and as soon as that group came and left, there was a scout troop from the United Methodist Church that was out doing the 5-mile hike and also doing trail cleanup out there. So, in just a matter of a couple of hours, we had age groups from 7 years old all the way through adults, and high school kids, and parents and coaches, all demonstrating community actions. And so it's pretty neat to see that. They were setting a good example for community involvement and volunteer work to help our community. I wonder if you can give them a shout out.
Well, because of leadership from you and Green Space and different people across the community over several years, I think it's safe to say that those trails annually are used more and more by more and more people. We have the bridges that are going in out there on the north end of the lake, and pretty soon we're going to be paving we're going to be paving a pathway from Ring Road out to each one of those respective bridges. And our friend Dick Bell has built a bridge down there in they call it the Emerald Cathedral, is that right? Back there behind the Presbyterian Church. It spans what, Ed, 70 feet, something like that, 65, 70 feet?
His isn't quite that long. It's a pretty
good sized bridge. It's replacing a bridge that's been there probably since the early 80s or 70s. That needs to be replaced, and this one right here is going to be a lot. It is a lot wider for access for handicap and different things like that. And he donated all of his time and his labor and his efforts. And Green Space provided the money for the materials, and he's done a couple of those now around the lake. So I want to give Dick Bell credit, and what a great job he's done. And we're thankful for having people like that in our community.
And I left the lake and went straight to the Hardin County Government Building, and they had a memorial hike there, and it was a wide variety of ages there as well. And there was probably over 50 involved in that. So it was a pretty active day out there in our parks. So I thank Seth and all of our park personnel also as well.
You can never underestimate the power of the parks, can you, Seth? It's a real drawing card for people to come and be part of our community and to see it. So we're blessed to have a great park system, trail system set up, and we're only going to continue to improve it. Anyone? Okay, well, with that, we will adjourn. We appreciate everybody for coming.